It's the Arch Advocate Show for Tuesday, July 10th. Sorry, I know yesterday I said it was June. That's why you should never drink and podcast. Listen, you are not alone. You are not alone. This is the message. You are not alone in this. There is a phenomenon happening right now worldwide, and you can see it, and you are not alone. It's very important that you keep that in mind. Now, as you look around, there are things that can catch your eye. Things like that somebody printed up a whole bunch of different posters for whoever it was that Donald Trump was going to nominate as the Supreme Court justice. They were going to protest it, no matter who it was. If Donald J. Trump had decided that he was going to nominate Susan Sarandon, right? Or Babs, what's her name? The lady that, oh God help me, the singer lady. You know who I'm talking about, Babs. She's married to that one guy from the TV. If he would have nominated some bedwetting liberal, they would have protested. And you can see that. And it tells you, like, well, that's just disingenuous. You have no idea who he's going to nominate, and yet you're protesting it. There were all these measures that were made, headlines that were already written, right? The headline was constructed and to the point to where all they had to do was drop the name in there so that they could run the headline in the news articles, in the blogs, in the newspapers, and whatever. When you see that, and you get that sense like, well, that's just disingenuous. Like, you don't truly, you're not against that person being nominated. You're against the fact that a person is being nominated by this person that you have so much hatred for. That's disingenuous. Furthermore, it displays a complete lack of understanding of how our system works. Right? How it is that a Supreme Court justice is nominated and everything that goes into it and what their job is. And when you see that and you get that sense like, man, you people are just so fake. You're not real. Like we're trying to evolve as a society here, and you people are holding us back with these ridiculous arguments, and these arguments that are just made out of hate and fear. And when you see that, just understand that you are not alone. When you see people talking about, there's all these people that are suffering down on the border, and parents are being separated from their children. It's like, okay, whoa. Where were you when Obama was doing it? Oh, why do you got to keep bringing up the past? It's like, well, because the president of the United States at the time, like, he set policy, right? There were things that guy did that are, being enacted today. It's not just, this isn't a football team that we're running here, right? We're not, you look at, people can look at, how successful the Denver Broncos were back when, John Elway was the quarterback. And it's like, well, dude, that was a long time. That was a completely different team. That was a different quarterback. The only thing that's the same are the owners of that football team. Everything else is different. It's not like that. Like, when a president sets something into law or sets policies in place, it takes a long time before those things are changed, if at all. So when these people say, why do you got to be bringing up old stuff? It's like, dude, it's not old stuff. The things that are happening today are because of things that happened yesterday. And when these people, they all of a sudden, they have this righteous indignation, and they cared nothing about these kids years ago, 2 years ago. They didn't even know that was happening. And all of a sudden, they bring their righteous indignation, and you see that. And you know in your heart, and you say, that's fake. Yes, there's people suffering down there. Yes, we need to fix that, preferably with a gigantic wall. But that needs to be fixed. And when you bring your disingenuous arguments to this table, you're hurting everybody. You're hurting all of those people. And when you don't look at the fact that there's an over 300% increase in people arriving at the border with children in tow that are not related to them, and you don't think to yourself like, well, why is this happening? Why is there a 300% increase in this? Right? When you see the left acting the way that they do and saying the things that they do, and you know in your heart that that's disingenuous, it's fake, and it's borderline demonic, if not all the way, just understand you are not alone in that. Many of us, the majority of us, see that. You are not alone. Right? When you see the new socialist president of Mexico standing up and the first thing that comes out of his mouth once he wins is he tells his people, he tells his, national citizens, hey, everybody, we're just going to mob up onto U.S. soil. We just need to bum rush that country. Well, that might tell you that there's a war coming, right? With a very old rival. And when you feel that way, when you get that sense, just understand you're not alone. You're not alone in that. We all see it. We all see it. And this isn't just happening in the United States either, right? You've seen, years ago, just a few years ago, we were all being told that Europe and the United Kingdom was having not a migrant crisis, but a refugee crisis. Remember that? Don't remember it from yesterday, right? Forget all the news that you've heard in the last 2 years. Go back 6 years, or even just 4 years, and remember what you were being told then. Because what you were being told was the same thing that the English were being told, and what the Germans were being told, and the Italians, and everybody else. Is that it wasn't a migrant crisis, it was a refugee crisis. And these refugees, and keep in mind, that word refugee has a very specific meaning. And so does the term asylum seeker. Those are very different words, very different terms, they have very different meanings. And so does migrant, right? They all have different meanings. What we were told 4 years ago was that Europe and the United Kingdom were having a refugee crisis. Oh my God, refugees? Wow, we have international law regarding refugees. Why is there a crisis? Who are these people? Who are these refugees? Dear God, how can I help the refugees? Who are they? And what we were told, what the Germans told us, and what the English told us, and told their own citizens was, these are Syrian refugees. Do you remember that? Do you remember? Go back in your mind. Again, you're gonna have to separate yourself from what you know now and go back in time in your mind and remember what you were being told back then. These weren't migrants, these were Syrian refugees. Very specific, right? Syria was in crisis. Al-Bashir was a madman. He's killing all his own citizens. And then there's Russians in there too. And we've been bombing them indiscriminately and causing all of these poor refugees. And the only people that are there to help them are the white hats. And it's so terrible. Remember that? And our hearts broke. Oh, dear God, in Syria. Syria is where Damascus is, right? And the Apostle Paul, he was on the road to Damascus when he, experienced his conversion, when he met Jesus Christ. Syria is a very important country to Christianity. How is it that this country that is so rich in Christian history, how is it that things are so bad that people are just fleeing to save their lives, right? That's what we were told. And what is it? What is it now? It turns out that there were some things that were being left off the table. There were a few facts that were not being explained to everybody, and in fact, were being withheld by government authorities. The government was telling the press, because again, they don't have freedom of speech over there. So the government can go to the press and say, you cannot run this story. You cannot say these things, or else you're going to be in trouble. Trouble. All right? What were those things? Well, I went and checked 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I got on a plane. This was May of 2016. I got on a plane, and I flew to England, and I went down to Dublin. Or no, I'm sorry, not Dublin, but Dover, right? London to Dover, and from Dover I went over to Calais. Calais is in France, and Calais is where one of the biggest refugee camps was, and still is to a small degree, but not like it was when I was there. And when I got there, there was a camp. It was referred, they called it the jungle. They still call it the jungle, but, and in this camp was over 10,000 Syrian refugees, right? I went there and I video recorded a bunch of stuff and did a bunch of audio recordings. I still have it all. You can see my findings. But when I got there, there were no Syrians, and there were no refugees, and there were no children, and these people were not doctors and engineers just trying to flee Syria. These weren't good people trying to get into the United Kingdom. These were migrants from the worst part of Africa. And they were all young men. And they were, you know, they're from, in that part of the world, like in Somalia, for example, the national IQ is under 80, right? Like the national average for IQ is under 80. And in fact, I think it's something like 64, right? And these are the people that are trying to come in to the United Kingdom. And furthermore, the people that were volunteering there to help these poor Syrian refugees, even though it's 10,000 Africans, right? Even though these people could see it, they were still educating these people on how to break international law and get away with it. And that's what I saw. And I told those people, like, don't you understand? Like, you can continue lying about this, but eventually people are going to see it. They're going to see it. And then they're going to know that you were lying. And then that power of compassion that you're drawing out of people by lying to them about what's actually happening here, right? Because that makes us feel compassion. You say, oh, there's these people from this poor war-torn Syria that's being run by a madman. We got to help these people, man. It's like, you tell that to somebody like me, my heart is going to go immediately to compassion. Like, okay, how can I help? Where can I send some money? What work can I do, right? Well, when I find out that you're lying to me, that power of compassion is going to turn against you. And it won't be compassion anymore. It'll be something a lot more violent. But it'll be equal in its power, right? And when you see that, understand you are not alone. Right? These people, these government leaders, right? These people that are supposed to be referred to as my esteemed colleague and the honorable this or that, like these people, they're just assholes. And they've been ruining their own countries for some reason, right? I have some theories, but it's like, why would you do that? Why would you import these people who are not smart enough to be of use to your economy? These are not engineers. These are not doctors. These are people who are not even smart enough to legally participate in the United States military, because we have rules about, how before you get on the roller coaster, it says you have to be this high. Well, in the United States military, we have standards where it says your IQ has to be this high. And if it isn't this high, you can't get in. And those people that they're importing from Africa, their IQ it's not that high. Which means like the United States government would not trust these people to peel potatoes. Do you understand that? So why would a government do that? Why would a government do that? Why would you import people who are going to do nothing when they show up but mooch off of your system and rape your women? Why would you do that? How many different answers are there? How many different answers are there before you start getting into the conversation of like, well, this just looks demonic. This looks like an evil, you know what I mean? Because people are not that well organized. You know what I mean? People do not work that well together. Unless there's like an overarching spirit of it. You know what I mean? And when you see people being shipped in and the German government paying for it and subsidizing the import of very low IQ, violent people into their own land who have absolutely no chance of ever being of any economic value to that country, you got to ask yourself, like, why would you do that? Furthermore, why would you lie about it? Why would you suppress the actual information from the eyes and the minds of your own people? Why would you do that? In this day and age, when you can see the benefits of making sure that people are free to speak, no matter what they say, that they are free to speak, and they're free to assemble, and they're free to come together, and they're free to hold the reins on their own government, right? Like, when you know that, like, why would you suppress your own press corps? Why would you suppress your own journalists? There's really not a lot of answers until you come to that one, sort of cover-all answer of like, well, there's something nefarious going on here, right? We just saw it again. I talked about it yesterday. We just saw it again in Germany. Some guy, rapes this lady, murders her infant, and decapitates it. A little sweet innocent baby, and the German government suppressed that information. This very podcast will probably be suppressed from my German listeners at some point if they ever find out about me. You know what I mean? And when you see that, it's like, whoa, wait a minute, that's wrong. Right? And you know in your heart, and you see what's going on, and you say, no, that's wrong. It's not just wrong legally, although, that's certainly in there. It's morally, it is spiritually wrong to do that. You are leading your society astray. And it would certainly appear that you're doing it on purpose. And for what purpose? One can only speculate. But it's certainly, when you see that and you come to those realizations, just realize you're not alone. You are not alone, and the importance of community has in my lifetime has never been more important. You're not alone, and you need to find the people who also see it and talk with them and make, you know what I mean? Go there and let them know that they're not alone too. And they will reciprocate. Right? And you don't have to get all conspiracy theory. Look, there's people out there with YouTube channels that, they get all way deep into the numbers and, it's the Bilderberg group and it's the Rothsteins and the Rothschilds or whoever, you know what I mean? Like, they get deep into that stuff. And listen, if you've got time for all that, you go right on ahead. But you don't need to, man. There's plenty enough right on the surface for you to lose your mind over. Right? Why would somebody, what kind of conspiring needs to take place when you have a bunch of people that have all these different signs made up saying, I'm against this particular Supreme Court justice, and they have 5 different ones because there's 5 different potentials. And why would you do that? Why would you do that? Like, as an individual, like, why would you do that? How can you be in that environment and not see the hypocrisy and the emptiness of it? How can you look at that and not understand, like, I'm not actually against any of these people. I'm against that guy making the pick. You know what I mean? And that's different. How can you not see that? Right? Now look, there's a certain point where you have to be comfortable with knowing what you know without being an asshole about it. You know what I mean? Well, let me break that down a little bit. You hear a lot of people saying, I don't give a fuck, right? And pardon the language, but like that's what they say. I don't, I have no F's to give, right? Usually the people who say that are the people who care the most, right? They give an F the most, right? When you truly when you truly have the self-confidence that it takes to be secure in your own position, you don't worry about what other people think, right? You don't worry about it. You don't spend any time twisting over it. That's one of the signs that you're confident. Is like, dude, I don't spend any time thinking about, like abortion, for example. I don't spend any time thinking about the opposition's point of view. I don't spend any time thinking. I don't get offended by it when I hear it. You know what I mean? I just look at that and it's like, no, you're wrong. And like we now have the ability to look inside of a pregnant woman's womb and see what's actually going on in there. We didn't have that in 1973. When Roe v. Wade went through. We now have that technology. I can see it for myself and I can see what's going on and I can say, no, that's wrong. So from now on, whatever the opposition says, it's like, I don't care to hear what you have to say about it. I don't care what you think. I don't care that what you think, and I don't care that you think it. And if you are thinking that, then I don't care about your life either. I don't want your life affecting my life because you are an animal. You're some sort of person that does not, you only think along ideological lines. Like you don't take in information and adjust your point of view. It was very different, like I said in other podcasts, like C.S. Lewis, right? One of the heroes of Christianity, of modern day Christianity. What he said about abortion in his time, right? A long ass time ago, he said, listen, I don't have an opinion about abortion because I'm not a woman. I'm never going to be in that position to make a judgment. Now, in his time, in the 50s or the 40s or whatever, when he said that made a lot of sense. But we didn't know anything about abortion back then. We didn't know what actually happens inside the womb. If C.S. Lewis was alive today, he would say, boy, that was really dumb of me to say back then, because clearly we can see, that life begins at conception, right? Because we can see it now. So when these people, they get on TV and they're like, oh, well, don't you, how can you say that you're against abortion? What about the people who are raped or victims of incest? It's like, oh, okay, you mean the 0.01%? Would you like to have that conversation? Would you like it if we made abortion legal for the 0.01% of cases? Well, no, obviously it's a woman's right to choose. Well, obviously it's not, right? Because now you are the champion of abortions at 39 weeks. So your little argument about, oh, what about those 0.01% of people or 0.01 of cases? You have just taken it off the table yourself. And you've gone into some weird territory about a woman's right to choose. It's like, no, it's not. No, it's not, because at 20 weeks we can see that little baby's got a head, it's got eyeballs, it's got fingers and toes. You know what I mean? And we can see what happens during an abortion, and we can see that little baby is experiencing excruciating pain as it's being torn apart. Right? And when you see that, when you see the unreasonable behavior of the left, like these crazy leftists who are now on television, finally we get the truth out of them, that they're celebrating abortion. And they're telling women that, hey, this isn't just your right, this is a rite of passage into womanhood, right? Into being the captain of your own soul. You need to get an abortion. They're promoting it now. Now we see who they are. Now you see it. And you are not alone. You are not alone. Look, this battle, I guess this is sort of the point. This battle is just beginning. And we've got a long way to go. Right? When you see the head of the FBI, James Comey, when you see that he threw his own nation under the bus, when he broke his own oaths, oaths that he took oaths that he swore to the Constitution and the American people, when we see the very head of the FBI doing that, like, there is a certain amount of, I don't know, expectation that we can derive from that, because it's like, okay, well, now we know that that the head of the thing was sick, and so the whole body is sick. It doesn't mean that all FBI agents are bad people. I'm sure most of them are good, but the fact is, we don't know. And if somebody like that can ascend to the highest level of the FBI, then who else? The CIA, the NSA, the National Security Agency, the Marine Corps, my beloved Marine Corps, the Army. There's already been Army generals coming out that were obviously in Hillary Clinton's pocket, right? We've seen the media, right? Remember, we saw Bill Clinton just a couple of weeks ago, and somebody was interviewing him, asking him about, that time that he raped Monica Lewinsky and shoved a cigar in her vagina, right? And he was completely off guard. He was completely broadsided by that question. He started hemming and hawing and raising his finger and, getting all weird. And what happened the very next day, right? Or the very next Monday, all of a sudden he's on the Stephen Colbert show, right? So these people have so much influence that they can just call their friends in mainstream media and say, hey, look, we need to do damage control. What happened? He gets on that couch, and Stephen Colbert, in front of the whole nation, says, hey, listen, we saw you tripping over your own shoelaces on a question that was about your life, which you should probably know a thing or two about. But we saw that you were having a very difficult time with that question, so I tell you what, we're going to give you a redo. How would you like to answer that question all over again? Right? And when you see that, and you see that influence, and you see that kind of power being shifted around and arranged so that people can make themselves look better, right? You see that and you're like, wait a minute. Hey, listen, you're not alone. We all saw it. We all saw it, right? When you see that Italy, which, Italy changes governments like most people change their underwear. I don't have a lot of hope for the Italian people. Like, those people, I mean, it's a great country, but it's like, man, those people, Italy's not a great place for government, right? But the fact is like the new government, they started turning away those boats, right? Those boats from non-government organizations that were shipping those people in from Somalia and Eritrea. They turned them away, said, get out of here. Get out. Get out. Right? They turned them away. And you saw that. When you saw that and you breathed that sigh of relief, like, oh, okay, finally somebody's coming to their senses. When you felt that, just understand you're not alone. There are many, many, many of us. The majority of us. And when you see the Mexican president telling his people to mob the United States, just keep in mind, right? There's about 100 million of us that are armed. There's about 30 million of us with military training, right? Military service on our resume, right? We've got all the guns, we've got all the training, and we have all of the patriots. All of those people, they're on our side. You are not alone. I just wanted you to keep that in mind as things get even more crazy. There's going to be more violence. There's going to be more violence over this Supreme Court justice pick. That the leftists have already made it clear that their intentions are violent, right? Big fat smarmy Michael Moore, who, I mean, how is that guy given a platform at all is absolutely baffling to me, right? He's just a fat blob of shit, and there's just pictures of him hanging out with Harvey Weinstein, the rapist. Then you got to ask yourself, like, how does Michael Moore get his sexual needs met? Who is he paying? Like, what kind of weirdness is that guy into? Right? Because no decent woman is gonna. It's like no decent woman's gonna look at him and be like, "Well, you're a decent man. Like, you've got a good heart, and I just want to be with you." And you know what I mean? Like, that guy's doing something, right? And he's friends with Harvey Weinstein, so it's like, yeah, there's more to come out about that guy's life. But he goes on Bill Maher and says, "Oh well, we just need to get 1 million people to mob on Washington to protest the Supreme Court, right? And the pick of Donald J. Trump." It's like, okay, well, you kind of sounds like you're calling for violence, right? Because what you're saying is you want to stand in opposition of the way things have always worked in this country. You're not going to get it. There's nothing you can do. We have laws. We are a nation of laws. And even the leftist, even the worst lefty leftist can't override that. You know? So chances are there's going to be more violence, and you need to be prepared. Right? Be prepared. Like, remember the Boy Scouts motto, be prepared. That's going to take care of 90% of all of what ails you. Just be prepared. And one of the best way to be prepared is just know. Like, just know, be confident in the fact that you are not alone. And the way that you gain that confidence is you talk to the people that are thinking and feeling the same thing. And they're everywhere. They're everywhere. You can just go to church, right? Go to church. Go join Oath Keepers. Join the NRA, right? If you're not already. Go practice at the gun range, right? Do you not own a weapon yet? Okay, go buy one. Go to the gun range and pay a little dough and take a course. Get to know people, right? And then you will find immediately that you're not alone. That's a very important component to have when going through anything, because the reason I keep stressing that is one of the most common conditions of man, like mankind or woman, right? People kind, as Justin Trudeau, the groper, says. One of the most common experiences in the heart of man is a sense of loneliness, right? When you're going through something difficult, you're almost always going to feel like you're the only one, that you're all alone in it, and that people wouldn't understand what you're going through. And so you don't want to share your feelings and your thoughts with other people because you're afraid that they would see you as being weak, right? And I can assure you that nothing could be further from the truth. And the way that I would assure you of that is by encouraging you to test it. Go out and talk to people. Find out where they're meeting. Go talk with them. You will find that they are saying the same things that you are thinking and feeling. And then you won't feel so all alone in it, right? In fact, you'll feel strengthened by it, knowing that the people around you, they're patriots, and they're Christian people, and they're people with good, solid morals and values who love their country. And it's not just in the United States. You can see it in Great Britain. The British have had enough, right? Those people are finally coming to their senses when they took Tommy Robinson and threw him in jail. The people are revolting about that. That's good to see. Hey, Great Britain, you're not alone. Oh, little brother America, we got your back, homie, like we always have. The German people are waking up and realizing, like, whoa, this Angela Merkel lady, she's importing these people on purpose, and she's suppressing information, right? There's all these nations now that the people, they're waking up. It's the Great Awakening, and to all of you listeners worldwide, you must know that you are not alone. No, there is no chance in hell that you're going to go through whatever it is that's coming, because it's coming. You are not going to go through it alone. We're going to have your back. All of us. Right? So just Keep that in mind. Hey, listen, please hit subscribe on iTunes. Hit subscribe on SoundCloud, Spotify, whatever it is that you're listening to. If you want to support the show with money, you can do that too. Go to archadvocate.com, arch-advocate.com, archadvocate.com. Jesus is the arch advocate, people. Archadvocate.com. You can click on Patreon if you want to throw a couple of bucks a month in. Do it that way, or if you just want to send like a one-time just wad of cash, you can do that on PayPal. Each of those are on my website. It's real easy to find. You just go on there and click on home, and it'll open right up for you. Thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you all tomorrow.